We have a lot to cover in today's video, including some more fallout from the Toronto Maple Leafs first-round loss to the Boston Bruins. Is Mitch Marner done in Toronto? Is he the most likely player in the core group to be traded? What about the future of head coach Sheldon Keefe and president Brendan Shanahan? Will they be with the club? Will they be let go, fired, replaced? We'll discuss everything we've learned so far about what to possibly expect from the Leafs here in the next little while. We also got news on the LA Kings and a potential buyout regarding Pierre-Luc Dubois. We also have lots of other news regarding the NHL draft lottery, some prospect signings, as well as a big update on the Ottawa Senators head coaching search, and Rick Bowness is retiring. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover in this video. First up, the news we learned earlier today. Winnipeg Jets head coach and Jack Adams finalist Rick Bowness is announcing that he's retiring. Rick Bowness has been in the NHL for just shy of 50 years in different capacities. Been around the game a really long time, a lifelong hockey man, and certainly been a very successful run in a variety of roles with a variety of teams over a really long stretch. He's got over 2,700 games behind the bench. Of course, he's been a head coach, assistant coach, lots of different roles with teams, like I said, over the years. Well-respected guy. We've seen in the past year, he himself had to take time away from the team due to some medical stuff, and his wife, of course, had some medical issues, which he was away from the team from as well. I think at this rate, we're considering his age and how long he's been in the game, and where things are at, personally and family wise, he's earned the right to retire. I'm sure he would have liked to win another championship. That's always everybody's competitive edge once. I want to win one more time, or I want to win for the first time, depending on their situation. And at the end of the day, sometimes things are more important than that. And certainly, like I said, Rick Bowness has got nothing but respect from the entire NHL circles of people that he's touched over the years. He's been a major positive influence on so many different players on and off the ice over his long stretch of time around the game that you're not going to hear anything bad about Rick around the entire league. So certainly want to wish him the best. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets join the list of teams that are searching for a new head coach. I would think assistant coach Scott Arniel, who's also a well-respected guy and looked after the team quite well when Bowness was away in a couple of different stretches this past year, will probably have an inside track to that head coaching position. He was asked if he's hoping to get it. He didn't really want to talk about it because he didn't want to detract from the attention of Rick Bowness's retirement after, didn't want to make it about him, but he did say that he would be interested. For sure. So we'll see what Kevin Cheveldayoff has to say about finding a new coach. But at the end of the day, Bowness has earned his retirement, and we'll see who's next there. I think the easy move is just to go to Arniel, at least for the next little while. So we'll see what they decide on there. The franchise in Utah, the Ryan Smith-led group, has confirmed today via announcements that they've planned to build a brand new practice facility, which will obviously be, in not too far proximity from their NHL home at the Delta Center. So it's going to be a 2-sheet practice facility, which will also house the team's offices. So it's expected to be ready for not the coming season, 24-25, but for 25-26. So you're probably looking at about an 18-month project approximately. So obviously that's great news for the team in Utah. We know that obviously this team moving there from Arizona didn't have the greatest facilities and were lacking some things, and they wanted to make sure that that was something that they looked after, because that's one thing that was missing from the piece of the puzzle there, to make sure that the players have everything they need. So be nice to see that announcement coming forth here. We also got confirmation the NHL draft lottery will be held tomorrow night, so that's Tuesday at 6:30 Eastern Time. It will be on a variety of networks, including Sportsnet. I believe ESPN's covering it, and I think NHL Network as well. So no matter where you are, what you have access to, you should be able to tune in and find out the results. So I will be doing a video on this, so look for that tomorrow night. There'll be a reaction to the outcome, and of course we'll be talking about the confirmed draft order at that point, up until the point we know. So what I'll be doing is I'll be doing one video. I may do it all in one, hard to say, but we'll be doing a reaction to the actual results, and then I'll do a new mock draft once we know the teams in that order. So look for that tomorrow evening. A few prospect signings today. The Carolina Hurricanes today confirmed they've signed 2023 fifth-rounder defenseman Charles Alexis Legault, who's a 6'3" defenseman who had a good run in the college program with Quinnipiac as well. So he'll be joining the Canes system here. So it looks like a good defensive prospect for sure. The Detroit Red Wings have signed one of their top prospects, and that's 17th overall pick in last year's draft, Swedish defenseman Axel Sandin-Pellika. So he's now officially under contract. However, the plan is for him to remain over in Sweden and play one more year over there before making the jump to North America. So what I would likely suspect and see here is that Sandin-Pellika plays in Sweden next year. Their season sometimes will finish up before the NHL or AHL seasons are completed, depending on where the teams are at in playoffs and all that. So I would not be surprised if Sandin-Pellika comes over at the end of the year and maybe joins the AHL team, or maybe even the NHL team if they're in the playoffs or something of that nature. So look for Sandin-Pellika to play one more year in Sweden, but it's officially under contract now. The Devils today signed a couple of prospects, including one of their top prospects, and that's one of the young, exciting defensemen outside the NHL, Seamus Casey, who's 20 years old. Of course, he comes in from the University of Michigan. He was a second-round pick in 2022 and has, again, been a very impressive run in his collegiate time. Certainly lots of talent, all kinds of offense from this kid. Had a remarkable season there in Michigan. So, again, with Seamus Casey coming to New Jersey, you got to wonder where the roster spot's going to be for him. So I suspect that he probably will have to play in the American Hockey League next year, assuming everybody's healthy. You've got Dougie Hamilton, you've got John Marino, you got Nemec, all right defensemen that would be ahead of Casey. So I wonder if we'll see a trade to make room for him, or maybe it wouldn't hurt for him to have a little bit of time in the minors first, and then they'll have to figure that out. So again, the Devils are, I guess, about to have a logjam in the near future on the right side of the D. They've also signed prospect goaltender Jakub Malek, who's got a 2-year ELC as well. He was a 2021 fourth-round pick. He's 22 years old, which is why he gets his 2-year ELC. Some news out of Los Angeles today. The Kings today have confirmed that Rob Blake will in fact be back as general manager. We don't know 100% if Jim Hiller will be back as head coach, or if they're going to go in a new direction. But Los Angeles reporter John Hoven has confirmed that he thinks it's about a 70 to 80% chance that the coaching staff goes from being interim to permanent, and that they remain. They are seriously considering changing the play style, though, getting away from the 1-3-1. So we'll see what they do in that front. One other note from Rob Blake as well, which is a bit surprising that he would come out and confirm this at this point, but they said there are no plans to conduct a buyout on the contract of Pierre-Luc Dubois, which, when we talked about this in the video in the last couple of days here, it's actually not that bad. The only downfall, really the biggest downfall, which is a big one, is that because there's 7 years on the contract, you'd be tied to it on your cap for 14 years. However, most years the cap hit was small, because you can still do a 1/3 buyout as a restricted free agent. If they have no intentions of buying him out, they better hope he improves, because they're going to paint themselves into a corner where they're not going to be able to get out of this in an easier way. I would think trading him at this point would be challenging unless they can figure that out with money retained or something. But within the next year, he's going to have a no trade clause kick in, which will handcuff them from moving him. And at the same time, he will no longer have that 1/3 buyout option because he won't be young enough anymore. So it'll be a more expensive buyout later, and then trading him becomes a lot more difficult. So I don't know. It sounds like they're in for it with the long haul here for Dubois, but they better hope he improves, or this is just going to be a major kick in the pants in their salary cap and bad decision that has not worked out here thus far. I can understand why under normal circumstances they wouldn't be ready to completely bail on us after 1 year, considering what they gave up for him and what they signed him for. It's just given the alternatives to get out of this down the road, he just made a lot of people think and wonder if they might maybe pivot and try to get out of it quickly. But we'll see. According to these reports, that is not in the plans. According to Elliot Friedman as well as Darren Dreger, today all signs indicate that Travis Green will be the next permanent head coach of the Ottawa Senators. Now, that's a bit of a surprise, and I see the reaction on social media by Sens fans is less than excited, you could say. Lots of Sens fans having major meltdowns, referring to the comments from Michael Landauer when he first took over the team as new owner, saying that they want to do things as best in class, and saying how Travis Green is not best in class. And it's amazing to me how quickly the team's presence or the fan base on Twitter can turn so negative so quickly. You don't even know for sure that he is the head coach, and you don't even know what the guy's philosophy is. You haven't researched him. You haven't done anything. Yes, is he the big sexy name that's on the free agent market for coaches? Is he Craig Berube? No. Is he, Dean Evison or Todd McLellan? No. But for starters, we know that the team has talked to all these guys. Maybe they don't feel like the philosophies line up just right, or maybe, just maybe, those guys don't want to go to Ottawa. Not to say that all the problems of Ottawa attracting people before was related to Eugene Melnyk. It was a big part of it for sure. But the team is still lower in the standings. Maybe some of these coaches don't want the task that's in front of them. One thing about Travis Green that you will learn if you do some research into this guy, he's a demanding coach. And he does say and preach a lot of the policies and philosophies that we've heard Steve Staios say that they're looking for. They want a coach that's going to demand hard work, going to demand accountability and hold them to it. That was a major issue under DJ Smith. Travis Green is known for working his players extremely hard, running really hard training camps, which is like a complete 180 from DJ Smith, where we've heard some players who were there in the past refer to it as a bit of a country club lifestyle. Anything but under Travis Green. He's going to make you work your tail off. There's no doubt about it, and he will hold them accountable. Yes, he may not have a sexy win-loss record, but a lot of coaches, for one, are better the second time around. I'm not really counting the short stint in New Jersey. That came late in the year. The team was already dealing with a bunch of injuries. I'm not really going to look at the record in New Jersey and really place judgment. In Vancouver, they did have some good runs there. They did have a little bit of success. And you got to remember, Jim Benning, the GM, in my opinion, was horrible at his job. And you can't fault the coach for the roster. And to me, in my opinion, Ottawa's got a good roster. There are some holes. There are some flaws. But the coach can't make the player be any more skilled. You know what I mean? There's only so much the coach can do. And to me, more than anything, they need a coach who's not their buddy. They need a coach that's going to work them hard, demand hard work, demand that they give it everything they got all the time, and hold them accountable when they don't. It's just that simple. That's what they need. He's not going to be on the ice doing the work. The players are. And the bigger questions facing the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion, this offseason are what moves are they going to make to change the roster? Because clearly the roster, like I said, there's lots to like. There's a lot of good pieces, but there are flaws, and they need to make some changes. There's no doubt. Starting in goal, they have some tough questions to ask on the blue line. There's a little bit in the forward group. There's a little bit of everything there. So at the end of the day, did I think the Senators would go for a more experienced coach with maybe a little bit better track record? Yeah, I did. But at the same time, you got to look at what's out there. You got to look at who's willing to come to Ottawa and all that. Craig Berube, to be honest, sounds like he's holding out, waiting to see what happens in Toronto. I think if Keefe is removed, he's going to be right at the top of their list. He's also been talking to the Devils, which is going to cause Travis Green to be more available than he probably expected to be. So I don't think, Berube was believed to be intrigued by the Ottawa job. I don't know that he was really super interested to the point that it was a serious contender. And then when you take him out of the mix, you look at Todd McLellan, you look at Dean Evison. I don't know, to me, there's things to like and dislike about all of them, and I don't really see Travis Green being that bad. Would he have been my first choice if I said, okay, of all the coaches out there, this is who I picked? No. But I think the fan base needs to calm down, and until things go, just trust this management and this ownership group a little bit. You can't say it's going to be horrible when it hasn't even had a chance yet. So just calm down, take a listen to this guy's philosophies when they introduce him in a couple of days and research him. And you'll see that all the things that Staios is looking for, he does have those qualities. So we will see. It's not confirmed yet, but that's where things are heading according to the NHL insiders. Now, on to the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have been a hot topic here. Of course, I put out a video about 24 hours ago talking about all the stuff that could be coming for the Leafs, of course, after losing to the Bruins in Game 7. We know the Leafs are likely going to be going through some change, but what exactly is it going to be? Now, we actually learned a decent amount of things throughout the day today, between comments from Elliotte Friedman, comments from other media, and just what the Leafs have announced so far to kind of give us a bit to go on. We also had the exit meetings this morning for players and coaches, and they met with the media to give their final kind of end-of-season comments as well. We've heard from Sheldon Keefe. We've heard from Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, and a few others. So we kind of have some more kind of stuff to go by here. First up, one thing that we did learn was that Sheldon Keefe, when he spoke today, he made mention that Brad Treliving gave him the option of being involved with the exit meetings, but he wasn't required to be. He said in the past, some coaches or some managers wanted to do it with just management. Some want to be the manager and the coach. But he said Treliving had a different approach and just said, you can be there if you want. Basically, he chose not to be. When Keefe spoke, there were times when he looked kind of emotional. And to be honest, he kind of got the vibe and the feeling, and I guess we'll find out here probably in the next few days if this is right or wrong, but it just gave you the vibe of somebody who probably thinks I'm likely getting fired. He was asked point blank, do you expect to be back next year? And he said that that's not up to him. He can't control that, which is completely what you'd expect. And all he said was he loves coaching in Toronto Maple Leafs, and that decision is not up to him. He's right. It's not. Now, we also learned, originally we were told that the Leafs management, and we didn't know exactly who it would include, would speak on Thursday. Well, now we found out just in the last couple of hours that that's changed. That's now been bumped to Friday. So Friday morning is when they will speak, and it will include Brad Treliving, Brendan Shanahan, and new MLSE president Keith Pelly. So now we know who's going to be there. So, yeah, I mean, some people said, Keefe wouldn't be speaking to the media today if he wasn't coming back. In some cases, I've seen that true, but I've seen enough looking back at coaches and how teams have gone about things. I've gone back and found enough examples where coaches did speak as an end of season and then were later let go within a few days or weeks. So, I guess until they've made a firm decision, you kind of have to let them speak, right? And maybe as of earlier today, at least when they had those meetings and availabilities, maybe they hadn't decided yet. Now, Elliotte Friedman had reported in his podcast that came out this morning saying that he's not 100% sure of the future of Brendan Shanahan. However, he wouldn't rule out the fact that he thought it was possible Shanahan could be let go. He does have 1 year left in his contract. But now that we know, and at the time, Elliotte wouldn't have known that Shanahan was scheduled to speak with Keith Pelly and Brad Treliving. The fact that he's going to be speaking with his new boss tells me that his new boss likely isn't going to fire him. However, like I said, he's got 1 year left on his contract. And what Elliotte Friedman had said on the podcast was that regardless if it's now or next year, because right now the expectation is that there's a good chance that Shanahan's contract's not going to be renewed. At least that's what a lot of people seem to think, and that maybe they'll let him go now a year early. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening. So he said that based on what he's heard, that it's quite likely that if Shanahan were to be let go or let his contract expire next year, that he may not be replaced, and they may not bother having a president of hockey ops and just have the general manager, Brad Treliving, report directly to the new MLSE boss, Keith Pelly, who's the president of that. So Shanahan may or may not be around for long, but it does look like he will be around to finish out his contract. One more season, and then we'll see. I guess it's hard to say. They'll probably want to see how the year goes, but expectation is that when they're ready to move on from Shanahan, that they're not going to bother replacing him. I mean, I know that doesn't matter too much, but it does save them a big salary, does save them some money, and if Keith Pelly intends to be more hands-on, more involved, and wants to deal more with the general manager, then that certainly seems like it makes sense. I mean, you could make the GM and president one job, or you could just call him the general manager. It doesn't really make a difference in that sense. So we did learn that much from that aspect of things. So with Keefe speaking today, that gives Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for them to make a decision on his future and to have it announced before they speak. So we do know that. And the belief is that if they move on from Keefe, that Berube would be right at the top of their list. And as I mentioned, the belief is he's got some strong offers out there as well, including New Jersey. So at this rate, if they want to speak to Berube and they really are interested, they need to make a decision quickly on Keefe, move on, and speak to Berube before he signs somewhere else. So at this point, Craig Berube was believed to be able to call his own shot, and the belief is that he was kind of waiting around to see if this job became available or not before he decided on his future. So ultimately, we've learned that much. Now, the general belief here as well from Friedman was that there is some belief out there that there's mutual interest for the Leafs, on the Leafs side, to move Marner, and on Marner's side, to maybe waive that no trade and to move on as well. So I would suspect that it's quite likely, out of all the core players, he is the most likely to go because he needs a new contract after next year. So negotiations are going to take place regardless, right, if he was staying. When it comes to John Tavares, that's going to be a lot tougher to move. They definitely wouldn't be able to get the value out of Tavares' contract like they could Marner. He's older, on a different stage of his career, winding down, still playing at a fairly productive level. I think it wouldn't surprise me to find out the Leafs do have some interest to re-sign or extend him at a much lower number if they can. I think they can still make sense to keep him around, but maybe change the roles. I would consider making a new captain. That's just my opinion. And then, seeing what he would talk to on a new contract for less money moving forward. But for Marner, he's going to be looking for another raise. He's younger. You could get a good haul. Like I said, there's probably 29 to 30 other teams that are going to line up and give you offers if you want to trade Mitch Marner. So they should be able to get an excellent return. There's not too many teams that wouldn't at least kick tires on a player of that magnitude. So at the end of the day, there is strong belief out there that Marner's time in Toronto is kind of coming to an end. It seems to be what the fan base wants for the most part, and it seems to be what some of the management and organization wants too. Listening to Morgan Riley speak today, there were times when he sounded pretty emotional. Not sure how close to shedding a tear he was, but he was certainly a little emotional, a little shaky at times, and it just kind of gave the vibe that they know something big is coming. All the players talked about, believing in the core group and that, they believe they can win together and all that type of thing that you'd expect them to say. Marner had a weird quote saying that it was basically like a privilege to play in Toronto and the players were kind of looked upon as gods. I'm like, oh boy, that's not going to be a quote that goes over well with when that hits them through the media and hits all the social media sites and gets spread around out there and everybody hears this. I understand what he's trying to say. He's just trying to say that hockey players in Toronto are major idols and idolized, but just the way he said it and the way his choice of words just didn't come out right. Just kind of come off as arrogant. Mitch Marner does have, a lot of people see him as being, the type of player who's kind of had everything ever handed to him, and just not doesn't come from a family where he's had to earn it, so to speak, and a little spoiled, you could say. That's what some people seem to think of this guy, and just the way it came off, and just like I was like, oh no, that's not going to go over well. But at the end of the day, for the most part, from what we heard, Matthews and Nylander and Tavares was like, well, we're right there. That's why I believe we can all stay together. We're right there, and everybody's like, the reaction online is like, no, you're not right there. You've won one playoff series in 8 years. How can you say you're right there? These teams that are winning the Stanley Cup are accomplishing a lot more than you have. Like, you're a good team. You have lots of talent. But clearly you're not that strong of a cup contender when you've won one playoff series in this whole stretch of this era of these young stars. So at the end of the day, like I said, the belief is right now that Marner's time in Toronto is coming to an end. There does seem to be some that think that he has maybe that mutual desire to move on, get out of the Toronto spotlight. So they may be able to work together to facilitate a trade. We'll find that out more as the offseason moves on. I think there's a strong belief that between now and Friday, when management speaks, that Sheldon Keefe likely will be let go. But can't say that with absolute certainty. He technically does have a contract for one more year, and Brendan Shanahan's future is up in question as well. But if he's speaking Friday, I can't see him going anywhere just yet. And then there's some cynical fans that kind of seem to think that, you know what, they're probably not going to do anything, and they're going to run it back again, aren't they? Keefe will be back to finish his contract. Shanahan will be back to finish his contract. The core four will be back. And then they'll be in a situation next year where if they don't sign Marner, which the belief is right now they don't have that kind of appetite for the kind of money in term he wants to be signed for, that maybe they deal with this after one more go. And then, maybe consider a sign and trade or trade him before his rights are up or something. I don't know. There is that cynical part of the fan base that believes nothing's going to happen and they're going to run it back. But they can't do that, right? Like that would be crazy. So at least I think so. But let me know what you think. Is Mitch Marner done in Toronto? Sheldon Keefe done in Toronto? What kind of changes are we going to see? What should we expect on Friday when the management team finally speaks to the public and lets us know what they're thinking? Let me know your thoughts on all that and everything else covered today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.